G'day, I'm Paul. BMW's iDrive system has been around for ages now. It's one of my favourite systems and it is advanced compared to a lot of other infotainment systems on the market. The latest version is iDrive 7. So today what I'm going to do is take you through a detailed review of iDrive 7, the screen in front of the driver, plus the BMW remote connected app. If you want to check out some of our other infotainment reviews, we have a whole bunch of them there from different manufacturers. You can click on the playlist up the top, but otherwise, let's get into it. Today we're sitting in the M8 competition. So in addition to showing you the standard features of iDrive, I'll show you some of the M menus that are specific to M cars. So if you don't have an M car or you're not looking at getting one, just disregard those, but the rest of the system is going to be virtually the same. So iDrive 7 is a 10.25 inch screen. It's both a touch screen and it also uses the iDrive controller down the bottom here, which has this rotary knob and it has a touchpad on top of it, plus a bunch of shortcut buttons above it and below it as well. The home screen has several menus. So this is your default menu with navigation. We have radio hooked up here and telephone. If I swipe across, you can see some of the M menus that are on display. And one more gives you status of the vehicle journey, your current traffic situation, and a compass. You can customize all of these menus by clicking up the top here and then changing around what you want on each page, adding more pages and putting as much detail as you want in there. Let's kick things off with media. So in the media menu, you'll find the radio details, AM, FM, DAB, plus digital radio. You can stream music online. You also have the ability to pair your phone to do Bluetooth streaming. There's an internal hard drive for storage of contents inside. What you'll also find here is one of the gesture controls to control audio volume. So by using my finger, I can go like that to turn it up and down. I can use hand gestures to answer calls and reject calls as well. The stuff's kind of pointless, to be honest. I don't know that you'll ever be sitting in the car doing this to turn it up and down. So it's a bit of a funny feature, but it's there anyway in case you want to use it, and you can disable it as well if you find it frustrating. Jump into the comms menu. This is where your phone sits. This is also where you'll find additional features like the calendar, tasks, email. You can actually pair the calendar to your phone so that it uploads daily. You can always find your calendar reminders here, and if you go out for a drive and you've got a meeting coming up, the car is able to tell you. You can also hook your phone up via Apple CarPlay, and it's wireless Apple CarPlay as well. There is no Android Auto system, unfortunately, and there is wireless phone charging as well available in some cars, so it means you can charge your car while you also have Apple CarPlay running on the screen. Let's jump into the nav menu. The nav in this car is really impressive. The screen is very high resolution and it's very fast. So as I flick around here, zoom in and zoom out, it's a good indication of how quick the processor is behind the screen. And then you can see here as well that on major roads you'll find traffic information. So this road here is all green, which means traffic is great. It will then route you around traffic issues. Now in terms of entering destinations, it's quite a clever system. So if you want to use the QWERTY keyboard, you can do that, or you can just start writing on the top there. Works well if you're left-handed, but I find being right-handed, that's a little bit tricky to do. And I think, I don't know what the stats are, but I think a lot of people are right-handed. So if this was a left-hand drive car, that would be a much easier system to use. But let me know in the comments below if you have iDrive or a similar system with a touchpad. Do you ever use this, or do you just go straight into the screen or use the rotary dial? Next up is the car menu. This is where things get really fun. If I go to the top here, I'll walk you through each of the menus. So the driving information shows you your previous driving history, how much fuel you've consumed, your average fuel consumption, your average speed, and your last journey time. You've also got sport displays. So depending on which car you're driving, this will display different things. Here in the M car, we have the G meter. You also have Newton meters and kilowatts and engine temperatures. Then on top of that, in all-wheel drive cars, you'll be able to see the energy flow. So the M8 competition, for example, is all-wheel drive. It will show you when it's sending torque to the rear wheels and also the front wheels. The M menu is specific to M cars, and I'll show you this quickly. You can configure what the M1 and the M2 buttons do. So they're located here on the steering wheel, they're red. These are shortcuts to configure the car's drive modes. So if I click on configure M1, it allows me to select what the car is going to do when I select M1. So I can configure the engine, transmission, chassis, steering, brakes, the works, everything, so that one push of that button will deliver those results straight away and I don't need to go fishing through the menus. Same story with the M2 button. You can also set what is displayed on the heads-up display. Here with M cars, you can have a tachometer on the display plus your navigation data. There is a lot of configurability, and you can also change whether you're getting a full heads-up display or a minimized version. And then finally, we have the settings for the instrument cluster. We can customize everything that appears ahead of the driver, what kind of information you want, what kind of information you don't want, and how it reacts to certain inputs such as these buttons and the buttons on the steering wheel. Next up is vehicle status. This is where you're going to find all of the car's warnings. So you can see here tyre pressure monitoring, engine oil level, which only works when the car's on, and then any control requirements. If you've got servicing coming up, if there's a flat tyre, this is all going to appear in this menu here, and it will also appear ahead of the driver, but if you ever need to catch up on any messages you've missed, they will all be in this menu. The settings menu is interesting here because if I start going through this, I love the way that as we switch between the different context menus, you're getting displays of what the car's doing. So it makes it easier to understand what you're about to dive into and change. So if we go into general settings, you'll see here, you can configure everything in here. And this is what I love about BMWs. I'm a bit of a tech guy, so I love being able to go and change literally the color of the lights inside the car, or whether this screen is showing one thing on the left or another. And it's all pretty straightforward. As you hover over these menus, you'll see the contents of them inside. So you don't need to go into a menu to find out what's in it. It gives you a preview before you click on it. Same story with exterior lighting. You can customize what the lights are doing. And with the driver assistance systems, given that some of these cars are going to be used on racetracks, for example, you can adjust the level of safety intervention so that you don't have the car interfering or thinking that someone's going to crash into you when they're not. And you can have full control over how much of this is active or disabled at any time. And then as you scroll through, you'll see the rest of the settings for displays, vehicle access, interior lighting, and comfort inside the car, plus what the buttons on the key do. You can customize how many windows open, how many windows close, whether it opens the boot as well. So there's a high level of customizability through the iDrive system. Unique to the higher end cars in BMW's range, and also available through the BMW Connected Store, which is where you can add extra apps to the car for a fee, are some of the other features such as experience modes. So in this car here, we can set different ambient lighting, temperature, and seat ventilation if we want to go executive, or if we want to go expressive, we can adjust the ambient lighting to suit. You can then customize each of these modes as well. Kind of a redundant feature, but I think if you can pick it up for free, why not? The caring car is interesting. So I had a long drive in the M8 competition and was feeling a little bit drowsy. I was able to hit the Vitalize button, and what it does is it fluctuates temperatures inside the car from no fan speed to high fan speed at 18 degrees. So the whole point is to keep you awake and get that cold air on your face, which kind of gives you a second lease on life while you're driving. And then you have a relax function as well that can do the same thing, just to make you feel a little more calm inside the car. Finally, in the settings menu, you have driver profiles. So if you have several drivers, you can assign profiles to them for different settings within the car. And then you have the owner's handbook that appears on the screen here. This is another good system because everything is inside the car. Yes, you do have a printed manual, but if you need to figure out how to do things, it'll show you videos and give you instructions on how to do everything. Let's have a look at the apps menu. So I mentioned before that within the BMW store, you're able to buy apps for the car. So you can see here all the apps that have been purchased for the car that we're in. These come standard with the car in Australia for a period of 3 years, I believe. So this is all free of charge. But then if you want to add extra things, so I'm able to add the digital key for the car, which allows me to lock and unlock the car using my phone instead of a car key. This is something that you need to book through the system. Pay for it if you need to, and then it gets downloaded to the car. So it's a bit like the Tesla system where they add features over time, but in this instance here, it's stuff that you can buy that is fitted to the car as hardware, but isn't activated as software. And one feature, just as an example of that with BMW and iDrive, is the drive recorder. What BMW was able to do was activate the AEB cameras within the car to record as a dash cam, so that if you ever run into an incident or have an accident, you have footage that's available. That's an example of a feature that they rolled out with a remote software upgrade and that buyers can add to their car for a set fee. Next up, let's talk about the BMW Connected app. It's one of my favorite features of iDrive because it allows you to connect to the car remotely, see what the car's doing, and there's also a really cool 360-degree camera feature that I'll show you in a second. So that's what the home screen looks like. It shows you your exact car and the configuration you've chosen. Although the color's wrong on this, our car's frozen blue, but that's white for some reason. Shows you the fuel level in the car, the amount of range you have left, and if we jump over to the info menu, shows you exactly what's going on with the car. So at the moment we have the door open and the window down. You can also check any warnings that are appearing in the car, any services you have coming up, any software upgrades that are available, and the enabled features that you have through that BMW store. If you jump over to the remote menu, you can remotely lock and unlock the car as well. So one push of this button allows you to send an unlock command to the car, and it will unlock the car. You can flash the headlights, see exactly where the car is located. Ventilated as well. If it's a hot day, you can get some fresh air running through it. Schedule your ventilation. This is especially handy on BMW's electric and plug-in hybrid cars. And then this is my favorite thing, the 3D view. Check this out. So one push of that button, what it does is it brings up the cameras around the car, and then it allows me to do a 3D view from anywhere in the world. So I could be sitting overseas somewhere on a beach, car could be in the garage and I can press the 3D view button. It'll show me exactly where the car is and what's going on around it. Love this technology. I don't think anyone else does this. And then finally, if we jump over to the destinations menu, you can send destinations to the car. So a good example of this is I had to send my wife an address that she was going to. She had no idea where she was going through our Tesla. It has a similar function to this. All I did was type in the address, sent it to the car, and it instantly came up on the nav system and started directing her to where she needed to go. Finally, you have activity and the hub menu. The hub menu is just news from BMW that they want to push out to you. It shows you a preferred dealer, also shows you the subscriptions you have booked and also extra subscriptions you can buy through the store as well, so they can extract a little bit more money out of you. Okay, moving on from that, we have the screen in front of the driver now. Unfortunately, I've got to start the car. This is a bizarre thing. The engine start button doesn't actually activate the accessory systems. So I'm gonna have to start the car. It's gonna be a little bit loud, which is good. All right, there it is there. Turn the exhaust off. Okay, so you're presented with a lot of information here ahead of the driver. On the left-hand side, you have your fuel level. Right-hand side is engine temperature. And then in between, it's littered with other functions. So in the standard display, I'll run you through the sport displays in a second, you have a speedometer to the left, tachometer to the right, speed is integrated on the left-hand side, navigation map in the center, and then you have fuel consumption in the window to the right. You can go through the BC menu, which brings up different displays, shows you your turbo pressure, engine temperatures, power gauges, and then with the M cars you have the G gauge, you also have your radio details. What you can then further do with M models like the M8 Competition is put it into a sport display for the M mode. That disables some of the assistance systems around the car and changes the display ahead of the driver. So now you get speed in the center and the gear you're in directly in the center. So you're having all the critical information ahead of you. And then in front of the driver, you then have a tachometer on the heads-up display. You can go one step further by pushing and holding the M mode button. That then allows us to activate track mode. Track mode disables all the safety systems. It disables the radio and anything else that's going to distract the driver, and it strictly focuses on giving you information about speed, gears, and going faster. Finally, what you're able to do with the steering wheel controls, you have your radar cruise on the left-hand side, but on the right-hand side, you have a scroll menu that allows you to run through the different radio stations. Voice recognition button as well. Excellent voice recognition system. It either uses the car's infotainment voice recognition, which works really well, or it will go straight through to your phone if you're paired with smartphone mirroring. And finally, you have a telephone button on the steering wheel as well. So that has been a detailed look at iDrive 7, plus a couple of the bits and pieces around it as well. You can check out the rest of our channel for more car reviews, more infotainment reviews, and other fun content. Also, if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, hit subscribe and the bell icon as well. That'll tell you each time we publish a new car review. But until next time, take it easy.